Morning.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to week 38 of the Crystal Crusaders in Storm King's Thunder. I'm your DM Brad. I have with me today Zach, Mike, and James. Thor may or may not show up later, as well as Morton. Don't know where they're at right now, but nonetheless, we shall continue on. I believe that Mike has volunteered in Thor's place to do the recap. So, without further ado, why don't we just get into things? Mike, would you please tell us what happened last time on Storm King's Thunder?
So, last time at the Barge Ride Inn, after Alexei and Lucas had been somewhat discovered by the vampire, which they uncovered in the attic of the inn, uh, they fled down to alert the rest of the party about the situation, and after which the vampire came down as well, sniffing the air after catching their scent. Um, After believing that we were about to be discovered, we devised a plan either to run or to stay and fight, or stay and deal with the situation, which, with alcohol in the party, running was not an option. So, in order to get the upper hand, we decided to make a move before the vampire could suss out Alexei and Lucas's scent again and identify them. We decided to try and break the barred windows in an as advantageous position for us as possible to get as much sunlight in as possible for what might become a fight. Zirak Thunderbeard went and jumped the gun a little bit before we were potentially ready, and smashed the window, pretty much trapping the vampire in a corner because of the sunlight. And, a fight ensued where we had to fight both the vampire, the barkeeper boss, and some of the guards, or what's it called? Bouncers in the inn. This turned out very disfavorably for us because the vampire was very, very powerful, and we managed to knock down a few of the guards. Me and Lucas faced up against the tavern keeper boss, who knocked me out several times, and Zurich was being held in aloft in the air by the vampire, slowly being drained by the vampire's bites. At the end, Alexei stopped reading her book and realized there was a fight for the death going on. In time for the guards from the outside to start pushing in, where she used some fireballs and magic to incinerate them, pretty much. And slowly losing the fight, Alexei grabbed myself, who was at that point unconscious, and dimension doored us as far as she could, in some direction, which I can't remember. Pretty much leaving the rest in the inn to... no, sorry. The rest were allowed to leave. If the vampire offered us to leave to spare Sirac's life if we left, which they accepted, and he had kept his promise, released Sirac, and the others are currently leaving the inn, if I remember correctly. And it's going to be interesting to see how Alexa deals with my still unconscious self.
Yes, indeed. Go ahead and mark your point of inspiration there. And I believe we will begin with the larger group of people that is here because right now Zach is the only one here from the other group. So first, I guess for and foremost, as sort of like things are winding on, we sort of basically like catch the tail end of Alexei just disappearing through this portal just moments before the fight had like begun to de-escalate and end. And you were, if I recall correctly, sort of aiming somewhere towards like the entrance of the town. Was there anywhere like specific in mind that you were kind of like looking to get somewhere inside the walls, outside the walls? It's all pretty much like the town's pretty like small, so it's like all pretty much within range of where you could get with Dimension Door. Um, James. James. Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I feel like he did say somewhere, but yeah, I can't remember. That's
I think I wanted to get out of the town, but you said, nah, that's not possible.
It's too big.
Right. Well, I do remember you saying basically like, oh, I think you said you wanted to go to the other town. You said you wanted to go like to Wamford, and that would be too far away.
Oh, can I get outside the walls?
Yeah, you could probably get outside the walls. Definitely because of the way the town is like built. So like the inn that you were in is like towards the back of the town, and like the main gates are towards the front. So you could teleport outside the walls, like behind the town, essentially, just like in the wilderness.
I do that.
All right. Yeah, so you just disappear through the portal, and then it opens sort of on the other side. It's these sort of like grassy, sort of like rolling hills, and you appear just sort of like in the middle of this field, essentially, dragging very with a lot of effort, dragging Sir Alamir's unconscious form through the portal with you. And yeah, looking down like immediately as you like look around, what do you do like first things first? As you're kind of like looking things over. We'll say basically as this is happening, I think Sir Alamir didn't have a turn yet, so I'd say it'd probably be a death save at this point in time as you sort of appear through the portal.
Okay.
See.
But then,
Where
yeah,
am I? Am I like in a field?
Yeah, you're basically
on the
just like
road?
in a field. You see like rolling hills, kind of like around you, and you think maybe you see like signs of like a road, kind of like off in the distance.
Excellent.
And like
Uh-huh.
obviously you can basically like see you're kind of like basically just behind the town. You see the sort of like double ring of walls.
First off, I'll try and stabilize him. Can I do a medicine check?
Yeah, go ahead and give me a medicine check.
You're in good hands, Mike. Good hands.
Yeah, so as you're kind of like looking him over, again, obviously you're not exactly medicine and sort of like surgery weren't exactly your fields of study. So looking over him, you can tell he's not dead. You can accomplish that much. But it's hard for you to tell like if his wounds are like stable or not. You can't really tell, and in fact, you're not really sure how to make it better at this point. But he's definitely not dead, so there's that.
Is he stable?
With that roll, you probably can't tell.
God damn it. You're in good hands, Mike.
I don't believe you.
But that's like that's like a bit of time to sort of like looking him over.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like imminently in danger of dying. Like he doesn't have. He's basically got like one. You see, there's like kind of like blood leaking through his armor. There's like a wound kind of like deep inside that you can't really like get to examine. You can't see how bad it is. But there is like little like flecks of like this green substance sort of like on the edges of where the blade like punctured through the gap in his armor.
Right. Am I able to do another medicine check?
Yeah, if you want to spend like a little bit more time, go ahead, Mike, and
20!
make another roll.
Rolled a 19, so I got 20.
All right. Yeah. So as you're sort of like looking him over again, um, you basically like sort of begin pulling back the breastplate of his armor, just sort of like unstrapping it and pulling it back so you can get a closer look at the wound. And as you throw it to the side, you can see his breathing is sort of like pretty like rhythmic and stable. He's still unconscious, obviously, but looking down at the wound, you can see that it looks as though like the armor managed to like stop most of it. And as you're kind of like looking it over, the wound looks relatively like shallow, all things considered. It was just there's obvious evidence of basically like this sort of like contact poison that had like burned away at the wound and caused quite a bit of damage. But from what you can tell, looking him over, his vitals seem to be stable for the time being, and you don't think he's in like critical condition. And you kind of like patch up, you like clean the wound a little bit and like patch it up as best you can.
Wake up! I search his body. Does he have any like healing potions or anything?
I don't know. Do you?
I have 3 healing potions.
Great. So after like I confirm that he's alive and he's not gonna die immediately, I'll take one of those healing potions and make him drink it. What's the healing on those again? Is it 2d4 plus 2?
Yes.
5 hit points.
All right.
Yay.
So you sort of gently massage the healing potion down his throat, and after a few minutes, Sir
up,
Alamir
wake up.
awakes, sort of like coughing, with like you had this like burning, like sort of like searing pain in your sort of like lower abdomen where you were stabbed through the armor. But you like wake up, you see Alexei sort of like standing over you, and you are no longer sort of like in the inn building. There's just like the open like sun up above.
Oh, good, you're okay. Hello, Salamir.
Alexei, what happened? Why are we outside?
Well,
Looking around quickly, just to sort of like take in your situation as you would in this situation, you do not see anybody else of your companions here. It's just you and Alexei in the middle of a field, basically.
yes, well, after you went down, the fight continued for a little while, but yeah, it wasn't going good. Alquil sounded the retreat, or maybe it was Lucas, and I decided that since you couldn't move on your own volition, that I would teleport us both out.
So the others are still stuck in there with the vampire?
I believe they were also looking to leave as well, so I'm hoping that they managed to escape.
Damn it. Alright, where did you bring us?
Um, she looks around. I don't know. I believe this is northeast of the town, northwest.
Yeah,
Northwest.
you're not exactly like amazing with directions or anything of the likes. And it,
If I sit up, do I see the town?
but you can see like the town not too far away, sort of like atop the hill. You see the inn building and the sort of concentric ringed walls.
Alright.
Yeah, you seem to be somewhere like behind the main town, kind of like in the wilds and the fields behind it.
Yeah. Alexia would say it's like mayhaps it would be best if we were to take a short rest and try and recover before we head in to see if we can find everyone else. I don't think we can take another fight. Well, at least you can.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think I'm much of a fighting.
Are there like forests nearby, Brad?
No. Looking at the map where you are, there are no forests anywhere within your immediate vicinity. It's just
Okay,
like
great.
open plains.
Let's try and move away a bit, find somewhere of cover, and then we can think about what to do next.
Yes, that's a good idea. Do you have any spells where you could contact the others?
Not prepared.
Yeah, so as you two are like going off to maybe like find some place to hide away a little bit away from the road and the town, Lucas, you, Alquil, and Xeric all sort of like go crashing through the window in your best like Angel Beats impression. And
Angel beats.
yes. Have you never seen that GIF? It's an amazing GIF. And So as you sort of like all go crashing through the window, spilling out into the alleys, running off down, as you're making your way, sort of like just trying to get to the exit of this town and escape from the situation, you can hear like the shouting and the alarm kind of like ringing through the town, bootsteps like falling. I assume sort of like as you're kind of like going, being the most experienced in these sorts of situations, you're kind of like leading people away through through the back alleys and stuff of this like sort of tightly clustered town. Why don't you, Lucas, go ahead and give me a stealth check, and we'll just see basically as you're like kind of like leading the group how well you can keep everybody hidden.
Do I get an advantage because of my boots of Elvenkind?
I would say in like this situation, because you're kind of like with a group that would give you disadvantage, it just kind of cancels out.
Deal.
All right, that's not bad. Certainly not amazing. So as you're kind of like making your way through the town, every so often you kind of like stop and duck into an alley as a patrol of guards kind of like runs past shouting, and basically just kind of like looking around for you. It seems like basically that the whole town has been put on high alert at this point. A few kind of like minutes have gone by since the fight broke out. And as you're kind of like making your way down, it eventually gets to the point where you kind of have to cross like a major intersection, like this big kind of like thoroughfare that runs from one end of the town to the other. And you see there are a number of guards just sort of like on the lookout, kind of like obviously like posted looking for like escape routes and like watching them. And you're kind of considering how you're going to like get across this without being seen, as most people have kind of been like shoved back into their homes just to like open up the streets so that they can keep a watch out. When you hear a sound coming from like a nearby alleyway, and it says, "Over here, this way." And you see like a dark cloaked figure just kind of like beckoning you into the alley.
Follow a mysterious stranger.
And
Sure.
Alquil just sort of like looks over and says like, "Normally I would not be one to follow strange figures into the alley, but
Wow, cool. You sound real different. You got cold?
Yes, very bad one.
I followed the guy into the alley.
I've caught a bit of the American."
Oh god, he's not got long to live.
Right. And you all sort of duck off into the alley, following after this figure. And as you get like a little bit closer, he kind of like moves over to this wall, and you see he like puts a hand on it and like kind of slides the wall in and over to the side, and then sort of gestures you inside. And he says, "We can hide in here for a while, till the heat dies down."
Who are you?
And he says, "I'm a friend. You don't really have time to stop and ask questions in this situation."
That's why I'm not stopping. That's why I'm going and asking questions.
Yeah. So if you all proceed inside, he sort of follows after and slides the door closed, and you can see it's basically just this like small self-contained room. Essentially, looks like it's like built into the back of a building, and like purposely kind of like hidden away. You don't see any like other signs of like entrances or exits into this room. Just some sort of like little like safe house room, and. As you kind of like, as the figure like closes the secret door, they pull back their hood, and you see like a figure you don't recognize. It appears to be a tiefling, like a male tiefling, with this sort of like bluish kind of like purple skin, and these like bright kind of like red eyes. And you can see that like they're dressed like rather plainly, just sort of these black robes, like intentionally kind of like hiding their figure. And they say, "You stirred up quite the hornet's nest with your little display there at the inn."
We tend to do that.
And he says, "Indeed, I can see." Says,
I told him we should have left. Just left.
he says, "Yes, well, it is certainly a brave move to attempt to kill the king and its hive, but perhaps a foolish one."
You mean stupid. You mean stupid.
He said, "You are lucky you are all alive."
That's one thing we got going for us. Some of us are just really hard to kill, like cockroaches. Like, hi, I'm Lucas. How are you? And I really appreciate the assistance there.
He sort of like extends a hand and says, "I'm Thorn," and he says, "I'm with a group that's rather interested in seeing this town's plague excised from it, but I'm afraid going and trying to kill them in the middle of broad daylight in an inn is probably not the best way to go about bringing lasting change, unfortunately." It was a good effort, though.
Maybe next time.
And he says, "I'm quite curious what brought you to this town in the first place, travelers. Not many people come here without a reason."
We needed a place to sleep and to recoup from a long travel.
He says, "I see." And he says, "Well, in that case, I suppose you can rest here for a time." And he says, "Is this all of you, the four of you?" And he kind of like looks around and at the three of you and Breork, and he just says, "Were there any others with you?" And he says,
There were.
And he says,
a dying warrior and a wizard, though. The wizard took the warrior away, and I don't know where they went.
Well, and he says, I see. Some sort of teleportation magics, then. Well, it's unfortunate that no real way to find out where they went, but I'm sure they'll be fine."
I'm sure they will be, too.
And he says, "Well, I suggest you keep your heads down here for maybe like an hour or so, and I'm sure things will die down. I will say, though, you've made some rather potent enemies this day. I would not be surprised if you find yourselves hunted for a time."
We'll add their names to the list. We actually have a physical list.
Who has the list?
Do you? That's quite impressive, actually. Says, "I've never met a band of adventurers so petty as to write the names of everyone who's crossed them on an actual physical list."
You have no idea.
And Elquil basically sort of like steps forward and says, "Thank you, friend, for hiding us." And the tiefling just sort of like nods and says, "It is no small big problem." And he says, "You are, while your methods may not be the type I would employ, your minds were at least in the right place." And he says, yeah, and he begins to like make for the exit, and he says, "I must get going, but feel free to stay here for a short time till the heat dies down."
Will do. Thank you very much, Thorn.
Yeah, and he sort of like kind of like bows and pulls the hood back over his head and sort of makes his way out the exit.
Stay there until night falls, and so you'll be entirely safe.
Yeah, so looking around the room, it's now the four of you, and Breork's just like, "Well, that was a shit show."
Yeah, thanks for your help there, Breork. You're a big help.
Oh yeah, Breork's a person.
No, he's a car.
Mhm.
I didn't know cards could talk.
And yeah, he just sort of says like, "Well, I had to make sure that Alquil wasn't getting his head kicked in by a vampire." And he says, "So, what now?
We wait.
How long do you want to sit down and wait here?"
How late? What time of day was it?
It was like literally first thing in the morning, basically.
We'll wait a few hours and I'll go out and look to see how it is.
And
See if we can get out of the town.
yeah, and you see Xeric is basically just like plopped down in against the wall, and is just sort of like sliding down the wall, like groaning, and he says, "God, I feel like shite."
Wait, who said that?
Xeric.
Just
Yeah, his
Just
complexion
relax.
is like incredibly pale. Like he basically looks anemic. He's lost a lot of blood, obviously. And Alquil just like goes over and begins kind of like putting a hand, kind of just like tending to him. And yeah, so I guess yeah, you can both groups, I suppose, can go ahead and take a short rest.
Sweet.
I close out of it. I did.
Arcane recovery. Maybe I'll just take my 4th level spell slot back. Are you kidding me?
Hmm. Yes. Yes.
What?
Yes. Got him. Nice. Good rolls.
Incredible.
Incroyable.
Incroyable. Une baguette. Obviously. All right. So in that case, basically, since Lucas's group is sort of just like keeping their heads down for the time being. Alexei and Sir Alamir, once you've sort of like rested a little bit outside of the town, kind of like in a sort of secluded space between kind of like a valley between some hills nearby. Where I guess where do you want to go next? You obviously haven't seen any signs of your companions anywhere, and you can still see like the sun is still like rising. It's still kind of like early in the morning.
Were you able to prepare any of your useful spells during this rest, Alexei?
I can only re-prepare spells on a long rest, I'm afraid.
Well, I feel like we're quite in between a rock and a hard place here.
Yes, it's quite a pickle.
If we can't defeat the vampire in daylight or during the day at least, and it's getting closer to nightfall.
What do you
Do you have any way of at least knowing whether our companions are alive or not?
I'm afraid not. I didn't expect a situation like this when I woke up this morning.
No. I suppose this was quite the foolish idea. Even though it would make sense to fight the vampire when he would be most vulnerable.
Let's see.
But damn, what the hell was that tavern keeper
Well.
made of?
Oh yes, it was quite something. I suppose I could maybe send Hockey in to do a little bit of reconnaissance, see if he sees anything with his hawk-like eyes.
Hockey?
Yes, my familiar.
Oh. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been asking this whole time, if you have any way of figuring things out. So you've had this companion this whole time.
Yes, but I don't. But let's see. I can only see through his eyes and communicate with him if he's within like 100 feet. So he'll be going in on his own. All right, Hawky. And I guess summon a hawk that just descends from the sky.
Well, it kind of just like it appears from the pocket plane or whatever that it's like kept in when it's not summoned. So it's just sort of like like a puff of smoke. This like hawk appears like on your arm. The talons kind of like digging into your arm a little bit.
Ouchie, gentle.
You're like right. Put on the falconry glove before I do that next time.
Yeah. Hawky, I need you to go into the town and see if you can find Lucas and Alquil.
All right, the hawk screeches loudly in your ear before taking off from your arm and flying towards the town. Yeah, and so like if you kind of like move yourself a little bit closer to the town to the point where you can kind of like keep an eye out through it, can you go ahead and give me a perception check with your hawk's modifier there? So whatever that is, I believe it has advantage, most likely.
You want to make that spell a little bit longer?
It's not going to give you the stats there for the hawk. You've got to actually look. You've got to have it. You got to look it up.
Yeah. /R d20 plus. So is this a sight-based perception check? Because hawks get advantage on.
Yeah, because it's keeping an eye out through, like I said.
Okay, so 17.
All right. So as your hawk kind of like makes a quick pass around the town, and you're kind of like looking out through its eyes. You could see basically with this sort of like almost like this telescope vision essentially. The people sort of like moving through the town. It seems as though like at this point in time, as you're sort of like sending this, like an hour or so has passed. The streets aren't obviously like swarming with guards like running all over the place, but there are still like you see like groups of them kind of like fanning out in like search parties through the town, and it seems basically just from what you're looking at right now, it seems as though your friends have not been located yet. Otherwise, they wouldn't still be like searching through the town the way they are. They look as though they're doing this almost like this, as you observe them for a while, they look as though they're doing like this rather organized kind of like grid by grid search of the town. Looking for where they might be hiding. Every so often you see them kind of like walk up and like knock on a door, and kind of like somebody opens and they step inside and begin like looking around for a while. And you can see there's like a pretty heavy like guard presence stationed at the gate of the town. But as your hawk is like flying by, you don't see any sign of any sign of your like companions anywhere in the open, where you'd be able to see them.
God damn it. I guess Hawky comes back. Well, I have my falconry glove on this time.
All right. So yeah, you hold up your arm. You've got the glove on this time to protect you from the talons as it sort of latches on and lands there, screeching and kind of like relaying what it saw.
Mm-hmm. No luck, I'm afraid.
Nothing? You saw...
No. It appears that the guards are searching the town grid, like section by section, looking for our companions, but Hawky wasn't able to get sight of them.
Well, that's better than nothing. That means they haven't been caught yet.
Yet. Give it time.
All right. So in the meantime, Lucas, now an hour or so has passed. Your other companions are still just sort of like looking pretty. Like Xeric is still like even if he did spend hit dice, he doesn't really have much to gain, given how much blood has been drained from him. So it's gonna be a while before he's like kind of like back in form essentially. But an hour or so has passed now. What would you like to do now that you've had this sort of like little short rest?
I guess I want to, like, try to get a look outside just to see if it's died down a bit.
You see a hawk flying in the sky.
No, I don't. I don't look to the sky.
Nobody looks up. That's why hawks are so effective. Yeah, so as you sort of like carefully make your way out of the exit, making sure, kind of like checking both ways to make sure there's nobody looking, you step out into the alleyway, pulling up sort of like the hood of your cloak, and making your way out. And as you like get to the edge of the alley, you can see at this point, it seems as though the sort of like trickle of people back into the streets has kind of like begun. There are like small groups of people, but it almost looks as though like as you're kind of like just looking out down this like main thoroughfare, it looks as though the guards around the town have kind of like stationed makeshift like checkpoints essentially through the town, and they're only like letting so many people like through to travel along the streets, and they're basically like checking everybody that passes through.
I can't get a view on a gate, can
You would probably have to like cross out into the open at least at one point to get through to where the gates are. So it'd be a risk. You could try.
No, I'll go back.
All right. So you return, and your companions that just like a collective like how's it looking? What's the situation?
Shit. I think I was the only one who didn't take damage, so you know. No, I'll give it a bit more time, and then what I plan on doing is I have like all my spell slots back. I'm just gonna cast invisibility like in a little bit on all of us, and then we'll just like invis out, climb up the wall, and then just jump down off the other side. Unless this is like a fucking huge ass fucking wall.
It's like pretty tall, but with like the right with like a rope and stuff like that, you could probably like scale over it.
Yeah. I'll give it about another hour, just to be safe.
All right. So you sort of like wait around another hour, as everybody's recovering, and again, like Xeric's basically just like he's kind of like a lost cause for the time being. But Alquil at least sort of like seems to like recover a little bit. I'm not gonna actually like spend any of his resources or anything for him. But,
they're all cards at the moment, anyways.
Yeah, they're all just faces on a page. Yeah, so you do that, and then I guess you cast your invisibility spell at whatever level. I think it's high enough to get all of them, right?
It is. Well, it wouldn't technically get the dwarf NPC because I only get 3 people with it, which would be me, Alquil, and Xeric.
All right, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so as you sort of do that, you cast your spell, and then everybody carefully kind of like again exits from the alleyway, looking out towards where the wall is. Seems like your best chance of kind of like getting out of here. You are still sort of within the inner wall of the city. So you sort of like climb over the inner wall, and then there's basically just like there's no actual like buildings or anything contained within the secondary wall. It's just sort of like paddocks for like various different like animals and the likes. So easy enough to sort of like make your way across to the other wall. I'm not really gonna bother going through that very much. There's not really much chance of failure. You're all invisible, so as you sort of like take your time sort of like scaling over the wall, trying to coordinate between a bunch of people who can't see each other, how to like get over this wall.
Hold their hands.
And eventually eventually you kind of like make your way over the outskirts of the wall. At this point, like the alarm has like died down. It's obvious like the guards are still like on watch. In fact, you have to you stop as like a patrol is kind of like going around the ring that kind of like leads around the outside, the outer walls. But it doesn't seem as though like you're spotted. And you make your way out and kind of like over the wall.
Woo.
landing in the mud at the outskirts.
Now where would Alexei be? God, if I know, I should buy some sending stones.
Yeah, we should probably get some of those.
I'm gonna, just like get a bit of the way away from the fucking town. and find some cover somewhere for us to, just chill.
As you kind of get away, as you're kind of like getting away, Alquil kind of like says, since we can't find where they went, I think it's best we head to that across the river to that other town, and hope that they have the same idea. Meet up there.
Sounds fair to me.
Was where we're going anyways, so I'm sure they'll wind up there eventually.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. So yeah, as you kind of like gather up, make your way down back to the road, making sure to like avoid the site of the town. You cross the sort of like narrow bridge that leads over the river, and make your way into the sort of like farmer's village on the other side of the river. At which point maybe you kind of like duck off to find some place to sort of de-invisible and begin kind of like blending in with the people there. Find some place to like lay low. Gathered, squatting in some alley somewhere, menacingly.
Yep. We're squatters.
Um.
Find an abandoned house and break into
it. Yeah, so in the meantime, then, Alexei and Sir Elamir, as you're sort of like out here in the fields, you've waited for a little while, done your scouting. What is your next move?
What's our next move, Sir Elamir?
Well, there's not much you and I can do for them, since we don't even know where they are. So we'll have to rely on them to pretty much make it out on their own.
I could send Hockey out for another run, maybe.
Yeah, I suppose you can check if the guard activity is still that high.
Go, Hockey!
All right, go ahead and make another perception check.
20 this time.
All right. So again, your hawk sort of flies low over the town, looking over, and you can see at this point, it seems as though the guards have like concluded their search, and but they haven't like returned to their posts like normal. There's still sort of like this heightened sense of they've set up like kind of like watch points and kind of like checkpoints along the way, which implies to you that even with their grid by grid search, they didn't find who they were looking for. So now they're sort of like stopping and checking everybody like traveling through the town, as if they're still sort of like on the lookout.
I see. I don't find my idiot friends, though.
No, nowhere
the
in the
only logical
nowhere
thing
in
to
the,
do is to
in
go
the
back
inn.
into town to find them personally.
Alright, Hockey comes back then. Still nothing. It looks like they're still not being found, though. They're still just... They've got watch points set up now and everything.
Watch points. Well, it was already hard enough to get into the town before that, so I don't think going back in is going to be an option. Especially since we don't know where they are, even to begin with.
Right.
In relation to Womford, where are we?
You're across the so Bardrite Inn is like right across the river from Montford. There's like a long, narrow kind of like wooden bridge that crosses the river.
And we are in between
maybe
the
like
cities?
100 feet across.
Or
No, so you're past the Bardrite Inn, so you'd be like more kind of like northwest,
Okay.
kind of in the fields, kind of there to the west. That's where you were teleported, but you're not far away.
Does the bridge seem to be the only crossing on the river path?
It's the only like foot crossing. Like you could try to swim the river or something, but other than that, there's no.
Let's head towards the bridge towards Womford, and let's see if and hope it's not guarded. And if they make it out of the city, hopefully they'll make their way towards Womford.
Okay, well, let's give it a shot.
All right. So as you make your way around sort of like the town, meeting up back with the road, and going to where the bridge is, you can see basically like the road kind of like it forks off. So like to the left is the road that leads up to the inn town. And the right is just like it continues down the main sort of like road that continues further afield. You can see there is quite a line now, like forming up to basically like enter into the town, and it actually sort of like begins to stretch down the bridge. It seems like people are like lining up, trying to get into the barge right in, but they're not being let in. But you are able to sort of just like walk past, doing your best to like play yourself off as just like travelers coming from further down the road. And it's a narrow bridge, so like it's kind of like you kind of have to like almost like sidle along as the line has kind of like gone down the bridge a little bit. But you get past where the end of the line is and kind of like quickly make your way off. It doesn't seem like there's any guards like watching the bridge or anything like that. And yeah, you kind of like make it across the couple hundred feet before you see the farming village on the other side. And there's like people kind of like out and about. You can see farmers sort of like tending to their fields off to the south, and kind of like as you walk past into the small town. And I would say probably like if you like begin like looking around, one of the two of you is like bound to see the other group eventually at some point. Why don't I have Alexei and Sir Alamir's group make a perception check, and then Lucas make a perception check, and we'll just see like who is the one that like notices first.
How dare you ask me?
How good's your perception modifier, Mike?
We're all going
Plus
to roll
4.
ones.
I'll assist you, Mike. You get advantage.
How do you assist someone in perception checks?
You look the other direction, that they're not looking. All right. So as you're kind of like making your way through town, Sir Alamir just kind of like keeping an eye out, just making sure there's nobody, like you're not being followed. There's nobody like coming after you. You eventually see that there's a as you're making your way through, there's a building sort of like on the outskirts of town, where you think that you see Lucas sort of like outside, as he's sort of like keeping an eye out. It's hard to tell, like they've got their like hood up or whatever, but you think you recognize like the cloak, and you think that it's Lucas.
Tell me, I think that's Lucas there.
I don't know, Alex, that he has his hood up. How can you tell?
Because his hood really goes with his hair. It's definitely him. And
probably like a few moments later, Lucas, you would kind of like keeping an eye out. You probably see Sir Alamir and Alexei like walking down the road, kind of like in plain sight.
Alexei's waving her arms.
I go back into my building
and hide. Maybe they won't see us. All right, we casually saunter our way over there, acting like we own the building.
All right,
going home, guards.
Yeah, so there's like no guards in this sort of just like little like farming village. So you make your way through and kind of enter into this very conveniently placed abandoned village that's in this, or abandoned building that's in this tiny village for some reason. Cool. And yeah, you see your the rest of your companions kind of like gathered around, and Alquil sort of like stands up and kind of like walks over and like claps you on the back, and he says, "It is good to see that you are well, friends."
Yes, well, might be an overstatement, but alive at least, and likewise.
Thank goodness we're all okay.
Yes.
Zerik's coughing.
Oh my.
Pale.
Zirik looks.
Yeah, Zirik looks like he's basically on the edge of death, and he's just like groaning, like,
Well,
Lucas, you really took a beating.
Yes. Well, I'm out of ideas.
Well, here's my idea. In the morning, we leave and continue to find the giant.
Won't the vampire be scouting for us though during the night? I imagine he'll do a lot better job than the guards.
Probably.
I look at Alquil. I
Oh,
don't think leaving these people to their fate is in all of our purviews.
we also met a man who was like mind of wanting to get rid of it. The vampire.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah, he
Explain.
helped hide us when the hunt was at its peak.
who is this man?
It was a tiefling. He went by the name of Thorn.
Ford. Okay. Where is he?
I don't know. He left us.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so Briark, sort of as you're kind of like gathered around discussing what to do, and he says, as noble as it is to want to relieve the plight of the common people, unless you've got some brilliant idea to lure this vampire away from all the rest of his companions, I don't think we're going to be able to take him. He already kicked our asses once.
An idea, you say? Oh, I've got
He
one.
says, and he just shrugs and it's like, I'm all out of vampire bait, unfortunately.
What if we just make some more vampire bait?
And he says, I was being facetious. That's not a real thing, Alexei.
Well, what if someone stands in the open with an open wound during the night? The blood will attract the vampire.
He says,
it's not a shark.
the
Alexei.
the vampire is still a person with a brain. They're not a wild animal. They're not. I would presume that they're not that dumb.
What if they pretend to be wounded though, but still alive? Like one of us lies in the open field, groaning, and there's some blood, and the vampire will come and try and eat them, and then that's when we ambush them.
Of course, yes. That will work brilliantly.
Really?
No, it's dumb. You can't honestly believe that any person, let's just say, hypothetically, you were a bloodsucker, and you saw somebody just very conveniently injured lying in the middle of a field in the middle of nowhere with no sign of anything else around them. You would go up to that person, because I wouldn't.
So we need to make it a bit more believable.
Briark, like, do you know who you're talking to?
Unfortunately, I do.
What if we get like a wild animal and put its dead body next to the person so it looks like they fought? That would be believable, right?
Alexei, I think your energy is better spent doing something else than coming up with a strategy for bait.
Right, fine. Sit down, read a book.
I'm still down for just leaving.
Yes, so am I, unfortunately.
What about the people here?
They seem to be fine. Sure, they don't live in great... They don't seem to be bothered. The vampire doesn't seem to bother them. It seems to bother passers-by.
Well, remember what that barmaid said, how people tend to disappear here.
Yeah. I feel like we have a bigger issue... a literal bigger issue to worry about.
And, yeah, Burke says, I for one agree. The vampire, it's a problem, I'll admit. And he says, whatever organization rules over that town obviously isn't doing so with the best interests of its citizens in heart. But for the time being, it's a functional place, and they're not in imminent danger. And he says, there are a lot more people out there that need our help. He says, The vampire is a problem for another day, I think.
Agree.
Blast. Oh, very well, but we will have to come back at some point.
I agree to that as well.
Okay, well, should we rest up at Brad? We'll just count as a long rest, us resting here for the evening.
Like, you stay in the town, yeah.
Alright, maybe we should rest up here for the evening. Hope the vampire doesn't find us, and then move out in the morning.
He says, agreed, but we shouldn't go about town too much. If what that tiefling said is true, I doubt that it's not. They're probably going to be sending people after us to find us. And he says, the sooner we can get out of here, the better.
Well, this abandoned hut seems okay.
He says, it'll serve us for now. I'll set up a perimeter just in case. And he kind of like goes off.
I look at Sir Almir after he's gone. What does he mean set up a perimeter? He's one guy.
I think he means just scouting out the area, making
Right.
sure there's nobody around. Maybe setting up sound alarms.
I see. Oh, I get hockey. Scout the area, please.
Screech! And it flies off.
Isn't he cute?
No.
It's horrifying.
He's a spectral bird. What the fuck do you think?
I think he's very cute.
I mean, he looks like a regular bird.
He looks like a regular hawk. What do you think?
They're cute.
In that I'm gonna swoop down and eat your baby kind of way. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe since we're moving into nighttime, I should make him an owl.
You had to recast the spell for that.
Yeah, that's true. Bedtime.
let's I facepalm. Let's set up a guard schedule so we don't get caught unawares. And we'll put, yeah, whatever. Well, we do a keeping eye thing as usual.
Yeah, so you kind of like keep a watch out during the day. Breer heads out and sets out like basically like this sort of like little like perimeter around the building that you're in, making a few kind of like traps and the likes just to alert you if anybody comes close from a like odd direction. And you guys like basically hide down in this abandoned farmhouse building for a time, and the day sort of like passes. It's kind of like long, so you're just like standing here, kind of like just waiting for time to pass. It feels as though the day is sort of like stretching on forever. Time is passing very slowly as you're kind of just like just on alert, kind of like keeping an eye out. But eventually you can see the sort of like bluish hues of the sky turn to the sort of like mottled like orange and red but as the sun begins like setting, and then finally sort of like plunges into blackness as night begins to fall.
Okay.
All right. So, oh wait, did we go to sleep now, or?
I mean, there wouldn't be any reason for you to go to sleep before nightfall because you can't.
No, exactly.
You can't.
So we just kept guard until night, and now
Yeah.
we're going to get our rest.
Mhm.
Pretty much, yeah. All right. Do you want to send out Hockey for another lap? And I'm guessing Bjork is back, obviously.
Yeah, he didn't take long to go out and just set up a few like tripwires essentially.
Yeah. So, did you get an ill feeling being taking your laps, Bjork?
And he says, from what I can see, things seem pretty quiet over here. And he says, if they thought that we could have escaped across the river, they certainly haven't acted upon it yet. I didn't see any strange faces out there amongst the farmers.
Very good. Now, one problem is, should the vampire look for us, I suppose he would be followed by the mist that we encountered him in the first time.
He says, well, I doubt it'd be so much as following him as he'd be using it to his advantage. We're on the edge of a river. When it gets cold at night, mist wells up from the waters. It's a natural occurrence. He just used it to his advantage.
Do I know if vampires can actually, like, make or conjure mist?
Make a religion check.
Religione.
Not to you the best of your knowledge, or sort of like basic knowledge of vampires. You never heard tales of that as one of their sort of like supernatural powers.
Alright. Well, let's just set up who wants to keep watch first? I kick awake Alexei.
Fine.
You're going first since you will most likely not be able to stay awake otherwise.
It's fine. I have hockey helping.
Yeah, good. Alcohol
Bradley.
second.
Great. I'm so
second.
glad this hawk is watching over us.
Yes.
I feel so much better now.
Alright, Alcohol second. I'll do third. And Lucas, do you want to do the last one?
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Roll a check.
Yeah, so why don't everybody go ahead and make me a perception check as they're kind of doing
I got a
watches.
7.
Alexei.
Ooh.
Yep. Got that. Cool. 11. All right. Cool. I guess I'll roll alcohol. Perception. Where does he have it on here? Nice. 10 out of 10. So, as you're kind of like keeping an eye out through the night, Alexei, kind of using your hawk here in the first part of the night, you notice basically, yeah, as the sun sort of like sets and the temperature drops, mist begins to roll off the banks of the river, kind of like blanketing the town and the nearby landscape in this sort of like heavy fog that makes it pretty difficult to see. And your hawk's eyes can't really like pierce it too well. But as you're kind of like you're flying around, keeping an eye on things. Let me just see here. What is there? 2? Okay. 2. As your hawk is sort of like flying around, you're keeping an eye on things. How much HP does the hawk have?
Let's
Just
see.
out of curiosity. And what's its armor class?
Hawks have AC 13,
Okay.
and they have 1 hit point. It's 1d4 minus 1.
All right.
They have 6 fly speed though.
As you're keeping an eye out through your hawk, you suddenly like for a moment, as you're kind of perceiving through its senses, you hear like a disturbance in the air, like the flapping of wings, and then suddenly your connection with the hawk is broken, and you sense that it has been killed by something.
Crawl back into camp. Sir Alamir!
What?
Something killed Hockey.
something. Did you not see what?
Nope. 'Twas too fast.
Where was Hockey when this happened?
Brad, I know where Hockey was.
Hoggy was kind of like flying the outskirts of the town, like kind of like close to the river, kind of like flying over that part of town.
Outskirts of the town, close to the river. Didn't look like anyone was heading our way, but then suddenly, poof.
Yeah, so you didn't see like you and Hockey didn't see anything in front of you, so whatever it was attacked from behind.
Yeah. I
Okay,
say
another religion check. Do I know if vampires can actually transform into a swarm of bats?
Well, part of I guess probably like the basic knowledge of vampires would be like they can transform into a bat, not like a swarm of bats. But there are kind of like legends that say that vampires have some sway over natural creatures of the night, bats and wolves and the likes, and some of them are able to kind of like bend them to their will.
Well, unfortunately, it is the. There is a small chance that the vampire could either be flying around out there and took out Hockey, or he could be controlling other night creatures to do so for him.
See.
I don't think there is much we can actually do about it, so just pray he doesn't actually find us and keep an eye out, I guess.
Right.
And please don't panic. Try to stay calm, focused.
Am I able to ritual cast for another find familiar during a long rest, Brad, or does that compromise it?
That would definitely compromise it. That's a little bit more involved.
Okay, never mind then. I guess I'll maintain the rest of my watch with my human non-hawk eyes until it's Sir Alamir's turn.
Sure thing.
Even though I woke him up early.
You're gonna keep watch throughout Alquil's turn as well?
Yeah, because
No.
Alquil goes next.
Oh, right. I mean, Alquil's turn next. Yeah.
All right, yeah. So you go and kind of like wake up Alquil, sort of like jumping at every shadow that like passes by through the night, a little bit put on high alert as he sort of like gets up. You sort of like he's kind of just like, what's wrong, Alexa? You look as though you've seen a ghost.
Something like that.
And he just sort of says, well, sleep soundly. I'll keep watch now. And he kind of gets up.
Please
No
don't
longer
sleep
my
soundly.
problem.
Sleep quietly.
Yeah, so he his sort of like watch passes, and eventually I think Sir Alamir is next, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you feel sort of a hand kind of like shaking you awake, and like a whisper, kind of like waking up.
Anything?
And he says, I didn't see anything.
No, with a 5 perception check, I guess you would. No.
And yeah,
I'll
he sort
keep
of
watch,
says,
go to sleep.
he says, I looked out the windows and it's pretty foggy. I can't really see much.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so as you're kind of like keeping an eye out, Sir Alamir, for the most part, the watch passes like pretty uneventfully. You do notice from like time to time, small sort of like shadows almost seem to like pass by the windows. But you guys are all sort of like huddled down and kind of like you've extinguished any light and like kept it dark, just so there's no way you can really be like spotted. And the watch passes like uneventfully, but it's like obvious that there's something out there.
All right. I'll wake up Lucas. All right, Lucas, you're up. Nothing really happened, but there is obviously something out there.
Well, let's hope it stays relatively calm.
Yeah.
What is there?
I take my watch.
All right. there anything in particular you want to do during the watch, or are you just sort of keeping an eye out?
I want to stay really attentive.
Really attentive. All right. So yeah, you sort of like very sort of like watchfully keep an eye out, and as the couple of hours winds on, again, like you as well notice, although to a lesser degree, that there does seem to be something like moving outside. You can occasionally like hear what sounds like sort of like flapping wings. And like some like sort of like high pitched kind of like shrieking noises, but nothing seems to. If they've noticed where you are, there nothing is making an attempt to like hone in on your position, and it seems as though perhaps you've gone undetected for the time being. As eventually the sun begins to rise at the end of your watch, and the mist kind of like is receding as the temperature is warming up. The mist is like receding back towards the water, and there is no sign of any sort of hostile creatures that have intruded, and none of like Brayark's like alarms or anything have gone off.
Sounds like we're good to go.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'll wake everybody up for the morning so we can get out.
We're alive.
No, sorry. You died
You're
during the
dead,
night,
yeah. Sorry,
Alexei.
unfortunately.
Oh, nice one. Well, I'll have to resummon another familiar at some point. Long rest. Click. Alright, preparing spell time. What do I want to prepare?
What do you want to prepare?
I don't know.
Maybe something we can have use of during this vampire survival sequence.
Vampire survival. Let's see.
Let's everybody get ready, and we will make our way into Womford, I suppose. Or actually, yeah. What do we do? Let's find an inn in Womford.
There are no inns in Wanford.
Why are we just not leaving?
Wanford's
I
just
guess.
like a small like farming place. The inn is Bardroid Inn.
Oh, okay.
We're
Alright,
just planning
then
on
we'll just
GPS
leave.
rolling.
Yep. Let us go.
Nice.
We are, the not our business Crusaders today.
Right.
We saw where it got us last time.
We are the. It'll be our business later, Crusader today.
Yeah, we'll come back to this. Put a pin in it.
Totally.
We'll put a pin in it.
Put it on the
We're
side
100%
quest. Put it on the
combat.
side quest log. But
We'll do it when we're level, like-
don't track it, because otherwise it's gonna fill up your quest quest thing on the side. So just just have it in there, just not tracked.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I've almost been killed by a vampire, or a bartender, I mean. So I'm a little bit lost as in where we were heading before this.
We're just looking for Groothug, which is apparently around here and apparently near water.
I almost got
Yeah,
killed
but
by
we
a
had
bard.
like some kind of mountain range to aim for, didn't we?
I pull out the map.
Why are you pulling up the map so begrudgingly? What's wrong?
Didn't we think it was in the Sumber Hills?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
So
rings
the last you remember, it was somewhere kind of like vaguely in this like area somewhere, kind of like north of here.
All right, Brayark, would you please lead the way?
North one.
There was mention of basically sort of like a river.
Maybe we should just go to the river over here and just follow it.
Yeah. Let's do that. But still, it's nice to have a tracker ahead of us, just in case.
Away with you, Bjork. Track.
It just says, "Is
Don't
that
make
really?"
us pull out the whip.
It said, "Is that really how you ask for something?" It's like, God.
Hey, I asked
You know-
nicely before that.
Please track Briork.
And he's like, "That's fine. I wasn't expecting manners from Lucas, anyways. All right." And so yeah, you guys travel down the road out of Wanford, and you notice like as you're kind of like walking through the town, you notice like people are kind of like coming and going, but you see maybe like one or two figures sort of like dressed in black that seem to be like talking with groups of farmers, perhaps like asking questions or looking after you. But you manage to kind of like elude their vision as you make your way quickly to the outskirts of town, leaving and kind of like walking down the road further to the east. And as you kind of like yes, and if you didn't already, yes, you have finished a long rest at that point, so you are all back to normal. So as you travel, kind of like leaving from the town, and getting into the wilds, following the road, basically, you're pretty much as you're traveling, pretty much like left alone. The roads are pretty barren heading in this direction. You don't run into any other kind of travelers along the way, and nothing kind of like accosts you. But you follow the whole day basically, and then at the end of the day, you can begin to hear the sound of like the rushing water, and you can see kind of like a rudimentary bridge that has been built over a much smaller river, in the road. But at this point, night is sort of falling.
Oh. Let's find a place to settle for the evening or for the night. And we'll just look for like maybe a place with cover, like visual cover.
Sure, yeah. There's not really much, because you're just kind of like on a road in the middle of open plains next to a river. So you kind of have to just like go off the road, and that's really the best you get in this current situation.
All right, we'll take the best we get.
Right. So as you sort of like set up your camp in the lakes, we can just go ahead and say the night passes. That night passes uneventfully, as you all sort of like are keeping watch and keep an eye on things. You wake up the next day.
All right. Give me the lay of the land again.
So you guys are currently sort of like camped alongside a road. You see up ahead there is a bridge that goes across a smaller river in the road, and then the road continues sort of southeasterly direction from there. The river kind of like travels northeast, kind of like along that way.
Alexa, are you able to summon Hockey and have a look around and see if you see any landmarks that looks suspicious of some kind?
Give me an hour and a half.
We give her an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, it's an hour and 10 minutes.
We give her an hour and 8 minutes.
Aw, shit. Got him. Go ahead and
non-negotiable. Goddammit.
Go ahead and mark off the material cost from your gold supply, basically. And you at the end of this sort of like hour long ritual, summon forth a familiar of whatever type you choose. I assume you're summoning the hawk again.
Yeah, I think I'll get the hawk again.
All right. So yeah, at the end of the ritual, this sort of like swirling mist appears above the fire, and this hawk kind of like materializes into existence, kind of like perched at the
Welcome
end
back,
of the
Hockey.
edge of the fire, and it just like screeches loudly.
Scree.
He says he's glad to be back.
Scree.
I don't believe you.
We can communicate telepathically. All right, I'm gonna send Hockey off to do the scouts.
The hawk's like, if you let me die one more time, Alexei, I'm coming for you.
I'm sorry.
Alrighty then. So as you send the hawk off to scout, I guess kind of like ranging to the edge of its ability to like scout ahead, without like consuming a large amount of time. It seems as though the surrounding area is clear.
I relay the findings.
So you didn't find anything?
Nothing of note.
Not within like a few 100 feet or so, which is really kind of like the maximal range that the hawk
Yeah.
can go out.
As we continue to travel, I'll have Hockey do laps around us, though.
All right, yeah, just circling
Yeah.
around you like a bird
A hawk?
searching for carrion and prey.
Yeah.
All right. Brayork, do you see any? Can you find any tracks or any marks that would indicate that our quarry, if there's been any giants around, perhaps?
And he says, I could keep an eye out. I don't see anything in this area. Pretty well-trodden road is still here. A lot of footprints of humanoids, small, nothing big.
All right.
But
Let's,
I'll keep an eye out.
Great. Let's just keep. Which side of the river are we on?
So you're currently on the west side of the river.
All right. And the small bridge only led to the other side, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it just goes across to where the road continues.
All right, let's just continue on the along the river then.
All right. So as the day begins, you can begin kind of moving along the river. It's relatively easy for Briark to kind of keep you on track. Obviously, you just walk next to the river. It kind of winds back and forth a little bit as the day progresses. And as you're kind of like, your hawk is kind of like keeping an eye out. Again, it's sort of like every so often like relaying basically like the surroundings to you, reporting anything of like interest, which as so far has been pretty much nothing. But sort of like towards the middle of the day, as you're keeping an eye out, as your hawk is kind of like looking, it notices sort of off in the distance, maybe like a few like 100 feet in front of where the party currently is, a group of like large creatures. Obviously, at the distance, the hawk can't really like tell exactly what they are, but they are like pretty like large creatures ahead of you along the edge of the river, and they appear to be like fighting each other.
What? Sorry.
Your hawk notices in the path like along the river, a group of large creatures that appear to be like fighting each other.
All right. Okay. With that, I would like inform the party. It's like, here's some large creatures are fighting each other. What Hockey can see, although they're a bit far away.
Humanoid creatures.
Yeah, Brad, I imagine so.
Yeah, vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, vaguely. Well, I think we're maybe walking into another battle.
These goddamn giants. All right. How far away were they, Alexei?
So would I know, Brad?
They're probably like a few like 100 feet in front of you still, just like along the river.
A few 100 feet ahead.
All right, let's get closer and see what's what the fighting is about, I guess.
Sure. Nervous laughter.
Or at least identify the fighters.
Sure.
Well, inch closer.
All right. So as you like move a bit closer to the situation, it doesn't take long before you can hear like the sounds of like battle and like shouting, deep guttural sort of like yells echoing across the fields here, and it is obviously like whatever creatures are fighting are quite large, and their voices booming, such that you can hear them from quite a distance away, and eventually you close to a distance, maybe within like 100 feet or so, where you can see up ahead, kind of like on the edge of like this kind of like hilly terrain where the river carves through, large giants, several of them, in fact. It appears, for the most part, that there are maybe like 3 or 4 hill giants up ahead, and they appear to be fighting another figure whom you can't really make out too well amidst like the large hill giants are obstructing much of your view in this fight. But they're another giant of some sort. But they appear to have this sort of like from what you can see like bluish skin like a frost giant would, but you can't quite, with the battle kind of like raging, the size of the hill giants, you can't quite make them out from distance.
Can I send Hawkeye up to get a bird's eye view?
Yeah, certainly. You send sort of the hawk up ahead to kind of like scout around. Looking down through the hawk's eyes, you see these hill giants are basically fighting. There's about 4 of them, but as your hawk is like looking out, the giant, which you can now see from above, is most definitely like a frost giant. He's got this sort of like deep blue skin, kind of like a white beard. The frost giant buries this great axe into the neck of one of the giants, sending this like spurt of blood like flying into the air. It actually almost like goes up to the point where it kind of like hits your hawk. Not quite, but it's like quite the impressive spray of blood. And that hill giant like drops to the ground, and the frost giant like yells and begins like swinging at the other ones while trying to back them away. The one thing you notice about this frost giant, the frost giants you've encountered so far, most of them tend to wear sort of like ragged kind of like furs and leather armor. They have like decorations of like bone and the likes. This hill giant in particular seems to be wearing a like fitted suit of like full plate mail armor, and has this helmet that has been constructed out of what looks like a dragon's skull. And he's like swinging this axe around at these hill giants. He has felled one of them, but he is outnumbered. And the hill giants might be able to win the fight if things continue. If this frost giant is not sort of helped, if left to their own devices.
This frost giant is being beset upon by these hill giants. He's wearing very fancy looking armor. Should we help him? He seems to be in quite a bit of distress.
You want to help the frost giant kill the hill giants?
I mean, he's outnumbered. Doesn't seem very fair.
So, by that logic, when a frost giant fights 5 humans, we should help the frost giant?
Alexei, can you make a perception check for your hawk, with advantage because it's sight-based?
Fucking 22, baby!
All right. So you notice, like, as your hawk is like flying by, passing by, you can see on the back of the frost giant's armor, there's like this tattered like cloak. It looks like pretty old and worn. But you see the top half of what appears to be some sort of like symbol. You see like these gray kind of like fingers stretching up, and like the top half of like a moon kind of like over a shimmering field of water. And you immediately recognize, even with the partial sort of like picture, you immediately recognize at least that there is some of the iconography of the crest of Waterdeep on this cloak.
He's wearing a crest of Waterdeep. We have to help him.
That might just be something he took from killing people of Waterdeep.
It fits him. It's a cloak that fits him.
He could have made it himself.
But he would have the crest for a reason. Come on.
And Elk will just
I look at
Elk will
Lucas
just
for help here.
Algol just sort of like shrugs and says, "What's the worst that happens? We help him defeat the giants. He's battered and injured. And we kill him too."
All right.
Violent Alquill.
How does recovering a long rest affect Sirac's recovery?
He's back up to like full basically.
Okay.
Actually,
All
I
right.
think I have a. I don't think I've ever actually had to use this before, but there you go.
Who's getting him?
I think.
Have you got anyone, Sir Alamir?
No, I don't. I'll take him.
Congratulations, yeah. He gets some healing. I feel like you'll need it.
Yeah.
So, who gets Alquill?
I think Lucas should have alcohol since there was melee-ish.
I mean, unless I have to, I'm not going into melee. I'm just gonna shoot.
All right.
Low.
Whatever. All right. Let's.
Guess I'll get Prior.
Are we at the backs of the giants? I'm guessing since they were obscuring us to see the.
Yeah, so the hill giants are towards you, and the frost giants like on the other side of them.
Yeah. All right.
So, real quick, do I get Priork then?
Go for it.
Sure. Alright, cool. There we go.
Maybe I should get Brework. Brework has extra attack.
Yeah, that's true.
So then I'd get Alquill.
Yeah. Let's go for that.
What does Alquill do?
Alquill does stuff.
Sure, I'll take Alquill. He seems to have survivability built in. Alright, fair enough. Let's do this!
Leroy.
All right.
All right, we will approach. We'll try to approach stealthily so that we might have a choice, like a chance of ambush capabilities.
All right. Go ahead and make stealth checks then as you kind of like approach the scene.
Stealthy.
Stealth check.
Holy shit, 18 and 19. Damn.
Quick. Okay, there we go. The giants are pretty well involved in the battle and don't notice you approaching. So you sort of like kind of approach a little bit closer, and now you can kind of like hear some of the shouting coming from the battle up ahead. A little bit closer. Obviously, it's all in giant, so only people that can understand giant hear. But you hear like the frost giant shout in the middle of battle as he's like swinging his axe, and he shouts like, "I'll show you, tub of lards, what Harshnag the Grim can do. You've messed with the wrong frost giant."
Harshnag the Grim? Is there a history or anything like Brad?
I mean, you've heard that name before.
Shit. I can't remember. Anyone remember?
I was probably asleep.
Wait, no.
Harshnag the Grim.
I've got it. Yes, Harshnag the Giant needs to be found. I've got it here in my notes, but I didn't know do it. Was it the Roaring Horns?
No.
Fuck.
It was the Black Staff Tower.
If you check, your player handouts and your letters and stuff.
Player handouts and all letters and
you
stuff.
have the giant letter, which is from Harshnag the Grim.
Ah, yes! Yes! Thank you! Let's do this!
Alright.
We have to help him! No!
So, do we... No, we don't get any sneak attacks or...
I know, because there's already a battle going, so they're not able to be surprised. But they don't know you're there. So you will be hidden from them essentially if you like make a ranged attack or whatever. So here we are. move you up a little bit here. Just
Oh my god, look at this elegant bastard.
of the battle map. And yeah, you can see up ahead these giants fighting it out.
Doesn't even have a red token border. That means he's a good guy. Sweet.
Why is he GM rolling?
Sweet.
Sweet.
Good rolls, guys.
Thanks.
Fucking psyche elf.
I'm tired.
Don't be a pussy, Zach.
I'm gonna take a nap.
James,
After
don't
this.
speak about anything.
Remember Eminem?
I know. I'll just wake up and then be like, BRB taking a shower.
Snap back
and
to
then
reality.
that will
Yo, there
happen.
goes gravity. Yo.
That's if we play today.
All right, so Lucas, you are the sort of like first to act in this situation.
Well,
And
you
yeah, I
know,
guess just sort of
take
like
cover
getting
behind
a
this tree
getting
so I
a
can actually
little
have sight.
closer look at the token there.
It's kind of cool. And
Nice
then
axe.
this giant up here, the far top one, that's alive. I'm gonna bonus action hex it.
Okay.
Click, click. And then, packed longbow.
Yeah, you have advantage on the first attack because you are hidden from it.
Got it. Advantage. $14 does it hit?
14 does in fact just hit. The arrow kind of like sinks into the back of the giant's leg, and it kind of like yells in pain, and is now very much aware of your presence, as are sort of like the others as it like shouts out.
And another one.
Of course.
And another one.
Another.
Probably. Should I just Xeric from not Xeric. Who do I have? Briorn, right?
Yeah, you have Breark.
For that one extra attack. Should I use it right away?
So how much damage did you do with the first one? 11 and
2.
2, so 13.
Yeah, 13. So I think I did 25 total.
Yeah, and then 11 and 1, so 12. Yep. All right. Yeah, is there anything else you would like to do?
I'll use Briork's thing and just get an extra attack on it. Let's start off strong.
Very well. So you use your his Zephyr Strike
Zephyr
ability,
Strike
firing off another
for
arrow.
another 13 damage.
Nice. Not bad. Yeah, so 3 arrows right into the back of the giant. They all sort of like sink into the flab, and you're not exactly sure how much actual like damage they've done, but they all like pierce like pretty deep.
And then I take cover behind the tree. Assuming there's an actual tree here.
Yeah, you can sort of like take cover. There's not a road. There's not like a little road. But like the tree and stuff is there's some tree cover. Yeah. So then the frost giant sort of like lifts his axe, and he's and he like shouts like, "Come on, you fat tubs of lard! Is this the best Grolanter has to offer?" And he is going to swing his axe twice.
Is this the best what has to offer? What did he say?
Some Grithather or something.
Oh, does he mean Grootholg?
No, he didn't say Groothog.
He said Grolantor.
Rolantor.
Probably another word of like a tribe or something.
All right. So he attacks. Seeing that the giant is sort of like all of a sudden like taking arrows, he's going to turn his attention towards that giant to follow up. So he attacks twice.
Can we get him as a companion?
So he deals 50 points of damage to that giant. So he sort of like follows up after you hit the arrows, and he draws his great axe across the giant's belly, and you see it like kind of like tears it open, almost like fully like fat and blood kind of like pouring out. The giant's like grabbing at his stomach, trying to like keep everything in. It's still like standing, but like that is a pretty like hefty blow after those 2 blows. And he sort of like shouts like, "Rah!" Alexei.
Yes. Fireball.
Set this town on fire.
It's not a town.
Set this
Forest on
these
fire.
giants on fire.
It's a boy.
Yep. I'll fireball it, just to hit these 3 enemies and not hit Gert. Pya!
All right. Dex saves. The top giant succeeds. Fails. Go 32 to that one. That's 16. Okay, that one. Yeah, 16 to that one. All right. So none of them are downed by this, but they are sort of scorched and burned by these like sudden flames, and they kind of like scream in like panic as the fire like washes over their bodies.
Good.
All right. This giant shouts, looking back and seeing the lot of you kind of like approaching now, and he says, "Small folk, help giant! Me crush!"
Do we all sound like the slob?
I've got one hill giant voice, man. That's all I've got. So he is going to begin running in your direction. As he does, the frost giant, seeing the opportunity, swings his axe, sort of like aiming at the giant's legs. Sort of like cutting deep across his thigh, but he's unable to like trip up the giant or stop it. So it continues in your direction, running up to there, grabbing this sort of like large piece of a tree along the way, and then hurling it straight at. Let's see here.
Let's see, who was the one that threw a fireball at them? I never touched this one.
It was Alexei, but the giant was like not looking in your direction, so there's no way it would know that. So it's basically just gonna pick one of you at random.
Hiding behind a tree.
It is going to throw it at Sir Elamir.
Alright, we're good.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm good with that.
The one who did nothing.
Hurls this sort of tree stump basically in your direction, which slams into you, sends you sort of like skidding backwards, and you take 19 points of bludgeoning damage.
Actually, I took a feat, so I have 32 AC now.
Totally, yeah, sure.
Well, the team agreed, so
Just
it's
a feat that doubles your AC. Yeah, and I know that one.
Yep.
Sir Elamir, it's your turn.
Um,
What you got, buddy?
I mean, I got a tree sticking out of my eye, but other than that, great.
Looks good on you.
Yeah, there's like
Thanks.
there's like splinters and like broken tree bits like all around you now.
Yeah, I'll go do a little skip over there, and let's unleash. Hold on, I'm gonna read Syrax
Unleash
first. If I do
Ortilla.
anything first. Blessed healing.
Yeah, I wonder where Thor is.
Yeah.
I wonder where he is too.
Oh dear. Hold on. Let me read something here. When you make an attack roll, you can expend superior die.
Precise attack adds it to the to hit number. That's what you're looking at.
Yeah. But it doesn't say if I have to wait until I know the result. When you make a weapon roll against, you can add. Do you want to make a ruling on that? Do I have to wait to know if it hits? Or
I would say like most of those things, basically once you know the result, you can't like modify it at that point. So you would have to do it before.
I'll do
I say.
precise attack then.
Okay.
Actually, no. I'll hold off on that. I want to just check if I can suss out their AC.
All right. So as you sort of swing your halberd, a 14, the blade of your halberd gouges into the fat of the giant's leg, kind of like piercing through it, and does in fact manage to just barely inflict some damage upon it.
Right, perfect.
Although-
It was currently not wielding a weapon, or
So currently it doesn't it doesn't like have a weapon. It threw the tree trunk at you.
You're about to get belly flopped.
Probably, yeah.
You do notice as you're like swinging at its legs with your halberd, like the thick fat and like calloused legs are difficult for you to kind of like get through. So you are dealing half damage.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
but that is also a hit.
Nice. Give me a sec to read real quick. Ooh. Passive. I'll expend one of Siroc's first level spell slots and heal myself for 1d8 plus 8. So 7 plus 8. 15.
Very good. All right.
And fuck it. Let's. I don't want to get belly flopped.
Why not? It's fun. All the kids
Oh
are
wait,
doing it.
I also have. Yeah, I'll do the bonus action. Thud him.
All right, that misses. It just sort of like hits the fat.
Well, I would have added my thingy.
Oh well.
So it's a D8 for precision strike, precise strikes. Plus 5 to hit.
Okay.
To the thud.
I'll give you that. I spoke pretty quickly.
Yeah. And since I knew the AC,
I mean, you know, a 14
Ish.
hit.
Yeah. And the second attack from my action surge.
All right. So that's what 6, and then that's a hit for another 6. Okay. Yeah. So you like cut it, like you're gouging these sort of like cuts in the fat of its legs, but it's still sort of like standing.
Dang it.
All right, and with that, it is then the two hill giants up here. They are going to continue fighting against this this frost giant. So they swing. Each of them their clubs. So that one, the frost giant manages to sort of like kind of like parry the first blow, sidestep the second, and then the other giant swings. So then, as this giant swings, the frost giant sort of like tries to like put its axe in the way, but the hill giant manages to get in there, slamming into the side of the armor, sending the frost giant kind of like up against the wall. He kind of like kind of gets the wind knocked out of him a little bit, but he is able to like just in time kind of like put up one of his shielded arms to like block the other club strike. But he does take 24. Damage. All right, and then Lucas, it is back to you.
I'm gonna stay on the one that I was shooting. Gotta get that hex damage, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Which that misses.
Nope, unfortunately, yep, that is a miss.
That also misses.
As is that. Wow.
Bonus 5 hex damage
All right.
from maddening hex.
So as you sort of like cast out your hex, suddenly the giant begins to like scream in pain, like roaring furiously. Blood begins kind of like leaking out of its ears, and then its eyes just roll up into the back of its head, and it collapses to the ground.
All is playing. And then
All right.
that's my turn.
Yeah, so the frost giant sort of like shouts, now sort of having like realized your presence, and he says, "Ha, small folk, didn't think I'd find any of you here. I appreciate the help." And he's speaking in common.
No problem.
And then he is going to swing at the other hill giant. Yep, hitting both times. Obviously, like greatly outpowering and sort of like just with knowledge and size, just overpowering this hill giant easily. Now that it's a one-on-one fight, Alexei.
Yes. So where you target a giant affects how much damage you do, right? That's like a thing that happens.
Yeah. So like depending on sort of like their armor essentially, like these like the hill giant Alamir is fighting has like pretty like heavily like flabby and like calloused legs. So like he's dealing less damage.
Can I will to firebolt him in the head.
All right. So if you're doing a called shot on the head, it's a -5 penalty to hit.
I see. I'm doing it.
All right.
That's a 19.
That is still a hit. So as you strike this hill giant in the head, there's a burst of flame basically as its face is just sort of like scorched black, and then like the fire and the smoke like fades, and the giant like blinks a few times. You can see its like face just like completely black, and then it just like screams in pain and like falls over after having realized that it's now dead.
It realized it's dead.
A delayed death reaction.
All right. So then that hill giant is dead. So then it is Sir Alamir's turn.
Yay, thanks, I didn't get pancaked. Good job,
Yeah.
Alexei.
Yeah, you have to climb up this slope, this hill. This cliff
Oh,
face.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not a large one. Basically, the transition from like one square to the other would be difficult terrain, so it just costs double to go over the ridge.
Okay. Attack. Okay. What is the distance? 30, 40. I'll just dash then, and I can make it up there to 40 exactly. Actually, no. I'll just yeah, I have to dash anyway. I'll climb up there.
Very well.
Yep.
All right. Then this hill giant, having sort of been like knocked back by these two heavy great axe blows, just sort of like grunts in pain, uprooting a nearby tree and swinging it at this wildly at this frost giant. Who easily in this giant's in haste and sort of like panic, easily sort of like parries the two blows. And actually, with the second swing, you see the giant swings his axe up to meet the tree branch and just hits it with the head of the axe, and the branch just like shatters to pieces. The giant is just sort of like stunned as its weapon is suddenly destroyed. Lucas.
Bonus actions, transfer hex to it. And then, pew pew.
All right. So with the
13,
first
14.
shot.
14 and 18.
So the first shot fires off, hitting it sort of in the back and dealing 14.
Thanks. The first one is 14, yeah.
Okay. The second attack misses, but the first attack is enough with the extra sort of damage there to finish off this giant. So as the arrow sort of like sinks into the back of its neck, there's like a tiny little like fountain of blood that then like erupts into a larger one as the giant like screams in pain, just like slamming around, like rampaging, just trying to like grab and like flail out at anything around it before it like tumbles to the ground. And then you see the frost giant as this giant's kind of like down and seems to be slowly bleeding out, swings his axe above and just cleaves it into the back of the giant's back to just like put him down for good.
Sweet.
And so with that, the hill giants have been felled, and the frost giant's sort of like breathing heavily. And you can see he's like there's like some dents in his armor. It seems like he's suffered some blows, but seems like relatively still intact. And he kind of like puts his axe down, and he says, "Thanks. I don't know if I could have done that alone. Your arrival was most serendipitous."
Hush! Nag! Alexei's like running up. The grab!
And he just sort of like, as you're like running up, he kind of like puts a hand out and he says, "You know of me."
I do. I am a student at Blackstaff Academy. You
And he-
sent that letter.
And he says, "So the letter arrived. Good." And he says, "I had thought the small folk would have forgotten of my legacy by now, many centuries as it's been. It is good to see that my plea for help reached the right ears."
To be honest, I was not familiar with you before you sent that letter, and I still do not know much.
Yeah, so
I'm
he sort of
sorry.
like he like kneels down, so he's like a little bit closer to kind of like eye level with you, but he still kind of like towers over you essentially. And he says, "It is good that you've arrived." And he says, "These hill giants, they have gotten more aggressive, attacking the farms nearby." He says, "Their den, it is not far from here."
Grudholg?
And he kind of like nods. He says, "There are a great number of them. I thought not to assault the fortress myself. Surely it would have spelt my end. But perhaps together. Together."
And Alexei nods. It's like, well, yes, more help. That would be very useful.
And he sort of like
Yes.
looks at the group of you, and he says, "You seem experienced adventurers." And he says, I see the way you fight. You are strong. But still, this will be a difficult fight. There are many of them. And they have a surprisingly decent fortification for hill giant standards."
We have yet to scout the location.
I'm certain we can try to fix something, a tactic of sorts. I am Sir Alquil. No, I'm not Sir Alquil. That's Alquil. I'm Sir Almir Ziganis.
Lucas, get over here.
This knight here is Alquil Redmoon, and the Master Dwarf, or Master Dwarves, are Sirik Thunderbeard and Briork Arnskull.
Yeah, so he sort of nods and says, "You know my name already, but I shall not forego my introduction." And he kind of like bows his head a little bit and says, "I am Harshnag the Grim. To the best of my knowledge, sole surviving member of the original Grey Hands."
Yeah, I don't know who the Grey Hands are, though, Brad, do I?
You do. Well, you know what the modern Grey Hands are. So currently, basically, the way it's set up is that so the Grey Hands used to be this like basically adventuring group that worked for the Blackstaff to defend Waterdeep. And then eventually there was some like things happened. Essentially, there was a lot of they tend to cause a lot of collateral damage, and some restructuring was in order. And so a new group was created out of the old group called Fourth Grey, which had much more strict kind of controls on it. And then the Grey Hands are now sort of like a group that is used as like Fourth Grey members in training. It's like an introductory group, essentially.
Okay, are Force Grey just like a guard force?
Of promising adventure. No, it's like an adventuring party that is basically acts under command from the Blackstaff, with permission from the Open Lord of Waterdeep.
Ah, right. Okay, I see.
They're basically like a last ditch like defense force, essentially.
Ah, right. Yeah, I see. Wow, one of the original members of Force Grey. No, sorry, fuck, one of the original members of the Grey Hand. That's what I meant to say. I didn't think I'd ever meet one.
Well, it's most circumstantial that we would run into you just like this.
What happened here? She gestures to all the hill giants. Did they track you down and ambush you?
And he says, I was a little bit lax in attempting to stay hidden from them as I scouted out their den. They must have spotted me and followed after me. Attacked me when I came to rest.
Right, I see. Well,
But you are for the most part unharmed.
And he says, I sustained a few blows. I'll have to pound these dents out of the armor, but I'm fine. I can keep going. That's what you mean.
Yes. Sirak here is a smith. He could surely assist you with that.
He sort of like chuckles and he says, of course, I would appreciate the hands. Although I'm sure you'll probably need a bigger hammer.
Yes. I suppose so.
Judging by the tree trunk sized dent in the plate mail armor.
I'm sure Sirak can figure out some way to help you at least.
Yeah, so he sort of like nods. And says, "I will appreciate any assistance you can grant, small folk."
Very good.
Yeah, so he's sort of
how
like
far away, and in which direction is Groothog?
he kind of like sits down, like leaning his back against the ridge, almost sort of like this like makeshift chair, and he says, "It's not far from here. It lies towards the edge of the river's source," and he says, "They've constructed some sort of dam and built a den upon it. They have watchtowers, fortified walls, things I've never seen hill giants construct before. It is strange."
That is strange. Is there anyone else with them that may have done this?
And he says,
Dwarves or other giants?
says, "I saw some orcs in the encampment, but their architectural knowledge doesn't explain the fortifications." I said, "I suspect they have some other allies, but I did not see them."
Like Valish Gand.
We have encountered a man we know as.
Valish Gand.
I'm always thinking about the bear. What's his face? Sengar. No, Rengar Bearheart. Who was pretty much leading a group of them. This man is quite dangerous. I don't know what his role in all of this is.
And he sort of like as he kind of like sets his axe down, you see he's like kind of like pulling his armor, his like breastplate off to like basically begin kind of like pounding at the tents, and he says, "You say there are small folk working with these giants. That is indeed strange, but it would explain where they came upon this knowledge."
Yes. Sorry, was it Kessel or Gant that was leading the attack on Golden Fields?
Valish Gant was
Gant.
like leading the hill giants, yeah.
Yes, along with this Rengar, there is a man named Valish Gant that was orchestrating an attack with both the goblins, hobgoblins, and giants upon the town of Golden Fields, where we at the time resided. We have a history with this man. So there are several small folks in cahoots with these giants. To which extent we don't know yet.
I see. And your history with this man has led you to come this way, then?
In a way, yes.
And he says, "That is most fortunate for me, then, that you happen to be traveling this direction."
Yes, the actual reason why we're here right now is because we were recruited by Blackstaff Tower because of your letters, to find you and assist you in the maybe not eradication, but the solution to these giant attacks, and why the stone giants have, or the aggressive giants have started acting up right now.
And he says, I see. And he says, "Tell me, the Blackstaff, who wields it now? I heard of Aronson's unfortunate passing some time ago. Tell me of who I now serve."
I look at... Oh yeah, she's AFK. I don't remember her name.
When Alexei is less occupied, I'm sure she'll be more than happy to inform you.
Yeah,
about her.
Alexei?
Yeah, so, like, he can basically, like, you can cue him in. We don't have to, like, do it right now. It'd be, like, a later thing. And yeah, so he sort of says, "Well, for the meantime, why don't you make camp here, and we'll consider our options on our next step forward."
Yes, maybe we can do it a little bit away from the stinking corpses of the stinking fat corpses.
And he just sort of chuckles and he says, "I forgot you small folk have more distinct sensibilities. He says,
Oh,
Yes,
it's
let
more
us-
that we have less body to stink up,
And
so
he
we're not
says,
used to the amount of stink.
and he
Basically,
says,
You're gonna insult this giant right now.
he sort of
well,
says,
I mean, hill giants are the stinky ones.
and he says, their smells are quite offensive to the nose, I'll admit. And he kind of like stands up, like picking up his axe, and says, let us away then. I think there's a clearing nearby, and we can use.
Yes.
And he sort of like steps off, like bounding over the ledges with ease, kind of through the forest.
Yep.
Right.
I don't have the ability to alter Sirach's thing. If you can remove a first level spell from it.
That's weird. I thought I changed them all to be able to do that. I will edit it really quick to allow you. And I'll just have to check it at the end so I can update his actual character sheet. Can be edited by all players. There we go.
Yay. Well, Hashtag, it's been quite a journey finding you. We've run into several problems, and it's been a rough journey, so to speak.
And he says,
And I don't know if you intend to stop the session here, but
yeah, we'll probably be
will.
stopping soon as the camp is
sounds like,
convening.
seems like the most smartest place to stop if we're gonna have.
yeah, like when we stop and like set up somewhat of a camp, or I'll just pretty much regale him of our journey here about Lob and the mind control stone
We're gonna have
giants.
to kill Lob.
Hmm?
We're probably gonna have to kill Lob.
Oh no. How can we live with ourselves? Anyway, and just what we've been through, the vampire, the stone giants, and all that shit.
Yeah, so he kind of like
sucks.
listens pretty intently as you're like telling the story, and he seems like pretty like actively like involved in listening and like kind of paying attention to what you say. And yeah, as he's kind of like as you're like regaling him with the tales, will sort of like fade on the scene there as you're kind of like having this conversation, and the campfire is kind of like burning, and we will call it there for this week. And then it's going to be a while before we play again. I have to work for the next few weeks on Sundays,
I
unfortunately.
won't be here next Sunday anyways, so
So-
we're good for that one.
Next time, I suppose, when we next see each other, we will continue from there.
Who's got a recap? I guess out of all of us, the
I
next
guess
person would be
you.
James.
Yeah, I guess.
Come on.
But
Don't be ridiculous.
really, it's probably going to
If
be you,
he's not
Zach.
here, I'll do it.
It's probably going to be you, Zach. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. I'm gonna go take a nap.
So with that, thank you all for playing, and we'll see you when next we meet.
Thank you for a good game, Brad.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right.
I need
Have a
that.
good one. Bye.